We'd love to have you tell us your name and where you're from in the chat so that we can recognize as many of you as possible. Tonight's call is really important. The battle for the budget is coming down to the wire, and U.S. Representative Khanna is here to give us the inside scoop on how the fight is shaping up for this life-changing legislation. If corporate Dems in Congress derail this chance to deliver on healthcare, climate change, and other progressive priorities, Democrats will be at serious danger in next year's midterms and may even risk a return to Trump in 2024. After that, we will be joined by Amr Shergill, chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party, to talk about exciting developments in transforming the party in the Golden State. Stay tuned for an update from our Revolution Field Director, Mike Olis, on the many actions we are taking in Arizona to pressure Senator Kyrsten Sinema to support the budget bill, filibuster reform, and the PRO Act. Again, please tell us your name and where you're from in the chat. I'd love to welcome a few of you. John from Redondo Beach, California. Ava from Glendale, California. Let's see, who else is here? John Nelson. Alan from South Carolina. Maureen from Saratoga Springs, New York. Marty from Burbank. Mike from Indianapolis. It's so good to see everybody tonight. For those of you on the phones and those watching live on social media, if you want to have a more interactive experience, join our virtual community and just transfer with us into the Zoom room. Go to ourrev.us/Zoom. As the call is building, I want to urge each of you to check out the latest edition of the Revolution Report, our weekly newsletter, which delivers the vital news from the front lines of the revolution, from our work on the Hill to the actions of our local chapters, directly to your inbox every Saturday and Monday. The link to the latest edition is in the chat. And for those of you on the phones, it's ourrev.us/Revolution Report. Again, please tell us your name and where you're from in the chat. We have Isaac Lieberman from LA, David Sonnenborn from Orange, California, David Stump from Bronx, New York, Iris from Chandler, Arizona, Amanda from Pennsylvania, Larry from Burlington, Vermont, home of Bernie, of course. It's so good to join together on these Monday night calls and just clear the revolution. So thank you everyone for joining. Before we get going, it's important to remember that our revolution is 100% funded by you, our members. Over the past 5 years, we've become America's leading grassroots-funded political action organization. Together with all of you, we are working to deliver on progressive policy that will change people's lives. If you're already a member with that cool card that comes with that, thank you. You're the reason any of this is even possible. And if you're not a member yet, now is the time to get involved. We're able to hold politicians accountable, campaign on our issues, elect progressives, and transform the party because of your support. Sign up to become a member right now by going to this link, ourrev.us/2021 member. If you're joining us by phone, press *3 and an operator will take down your info. And if you signed up to be a member, please tell us that in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. To everyone who just joined in, good evening and welcome to our Monday night Organize to Win call. In just a few minutes, we'll be joined by U.S. Representative Khanna to dig into the state of play on the budget battle as negotiations heat up on Capitol Hill. We'll also hear from Amr Shergill, chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party, on exciting developments in transforming the party in the Golden State. Stay tuned for an update from our Revolution Field Director, Mike Olis, on our rolling protests in Arizona, pressuring U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema to support the budget bill, filibuster, and the PRO Act. Finally, once again, please tell us your name and where you're from in the chat. For those of you who are joining by phone or watching live on social media, you can join our virtual community and transfer into the Zoom room for a more interactive experience. Just go to ourrev.us/Zoom to do that. We're going to welcome a few more people, and then we're just about ready to get started. We have Sergeant Anthony Edward Lewis of the U.S. Army Infantry, retired, in Michigan City, Indiana. Arlene from New York City, Megan from Maryland, Deborah Sayers from upstate New York, Katie, who became a member last week. We have Mary Hauser from Aurora, Colorado, and Bonnie from Utah. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us tonight. We're about to start tonight's Organized to Win call, but first, a few housekeeping items. If you have a question for our guests and you're on the phone, press *3 and an operator will take that down. And if you're in the Zoom room, just put your questions right into the Q&A. We want everyone to be able to participate in our virtual community here. So hop onto the Zoom call if you're on the phones or watching live on social media by going to ourrev.us/Zoom. With that, let me bring up our co-host for the evening and my friend, Hal Ginsberg.
Thank you so much, Emma, and I really enjoyed hearing you do the introductions. You did such a good job with it, and really, I think the best part was how welcoming you are. We absolutely feel like we are a family here. We want you to be part of our family and to enjoy these calls and get a lot out of them. Again, I'm Hal Ginsberg. I am with Our Revolution. I'm co-hosting tonight with Marissa Mormeal. We've got an action-packed broadcast. We're so glad to have all of you tuning in. This evening, we'll get the latest on the budget battle from Representative Khanna. Then we'll be joined by Amar Shergill. He is the chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party. After that, stay tuned for an update from Our Revolution Field Director Mike Olis. He'll be discussing the actions in Arizona over the past week that he led, that others led, as well as some coming up to pressure Senator Sinema, one of the two real serious holdouts in the United States Senate. And we're going to end tonight's call with opportunities for you to get involved in Our Revolution actions. Now, take it away, Marissa.
Thanks, Hal. Welcome, everyone. And as a reminder, you can sign up with the link that's in the chat to get our newsletter, the Revolution Report, that's emailed straight to your inbox every week. This is the report where we tell everyone about critical insider information and the work that we're doing and how to plug in and take action in all of these events around the country. You can go to ourrev.us/revolution report to sign up and get the Revolution Report directly to your inbox.
That's right, Marissa. And before we get going, please know that Our Revolution is 100% funded by you, our members. With your support, we've become America's leading grassroots-funded political action organization. To all our members, thanks for being in this fight. And if you're not yet a movement builder, we do ask you to sign up today at ourrev.us/2021member. If you're joining us by phone, then press *3 and an operator will take down your info. Once you sign up, tell us about it in the chat. We want to shout you out. Now, back to Marissa.
Thanks, Hal. Let's get right into it. The battle for the budget is coming down to the wire, with Democrats' self-imposed Halloween deadline looming and corporate Dems and lobbyists working overtime to water down the bill. We've got the president and 96% of the Democratic caucus on board, but we have to fight right now to keep those progressive policies in the final package. And we're talking about lowering drug prices, expanding Medicare, real action on climate, paid family and medical leave, taxing the wealthy and corporations, and much, much more.
Absolutely. And it's thanks to us, as progressives, holding the line, that Democrats still have the chance to pass this agenda. We can't let them fail by giving in to the corporate wing of the party. Progressives, both inside and outside of Congress, are joining forces to send a clear message to Democratic holdouts and leadership. It's time to deliver. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and we must seize the moment.
That's right. It's an all-hands-on-deck with Our Revolution activists holding rolling protests in Arizona against U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema and taking over town halls held by Representatives Josh Gottheimer in New Jersey and Kurt Schrader in Oregon and more. As Our Revolution Executive Director Joseph Kubargis told Politico this week, we're committed to bird-dogging Sinema with her constituents until the very end. We're going to make her life unpleasant or uncomfortable. And we'll hear more about the Arizona protests later from Our Revolution Field Director Mike Ollis.
Make your voice heard in the battle for the budget. Call your member of Congress and demand they deliver on our priorities. Use the link in the chat. That's ourrev.us/budget fight. OURREV.us/budget fight.
And in DC, Our Revolution activists were among the thousands gathered at the White House for protests against fossil fuels led by the Indigenous Environmental Network. Our coalition is fighting to end fossil fuel subsidies and to get climate action through in the budget bill. But they were also calling on Biden to take action. Hundreds were arrested last week, calling on Biden to declare a climate emergency and halt all new fossil fuel projects, which he could do with a stroke of a pen.
That's right, Marissa. And if the Biden administration moves forward with 24 major fossil fuel infrastructure projects currently under federal review, it would be the emissions equivalent of adding 400 new coal-fired power plants. And let me just say, this is why Our Revolution does practice an inside-outside strategy. Yes, we work very closely with great progressives like Bernie Sanders, of course, our founder, AOC, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, but we also have to keep that pressure on from the outside because there are well-placed, highly paid, very, very seductive, shall we say, lobbyists in the White House, in the Capitol. And we have got to counterbalance their influence from the outside. In just a moment, in fact, we'll be asking Congressman Khanna, about how he is summoning big oil executives to testify before Congress in the sunlight, under the Klieg lights, not in the back room at the end of this month. If you have questions for Ro or any of our guests, put them in the Q&A. If you're on the phone, press *3 and we'll get to your question.
Thanks, Hal. We're also gearing up for the general election on November 2nd, when dozens of our endorsed candidates will be on the ballots across the country. Our Revolution Minnesota and Our Revolution Massachusetts held their GOTV calls over the past few days to rally volunteers to knock doors and mobilize for their progressive candidate slates. Some of our candidates in these two states included Jeremiah Ellison, who's running for re-election in Minneapolis City Council Ward 5, Wilma Baugh, who is running to be the next mayor of Somerville, and just yesterday we announced our endorsement of Michelle Wu for mayor of Boston. You can sign up in the chat to join Our Revolution Minnesota to knock doors this Sunday.
Thanks, Marissa. These local elections are extremely important to our mission of transforming the party and delivering on policy. Minnesota Attorney General and Our Revolution board member Keith Ellison, you can see him right there on your screen, said on this week's GOTV call that the closest government to the people is local government. If you don't have a solid progressive base on school boards, city councils, etc., then you just don't have a solid foundation. That's what we're building with all of you. So stay tuned to the end of this call to get plugged into more mobilizations and get out the vote events scheduled for this week. And now over to you, Marissa.
Thanks, Hal. And we are so pleased.
You know what? I don't see Ro. I'm sorry. Maybe we should. We do have Amar Shergill. He's our second guest. So I'm going to actually grab the mic back, if I may, Marissa.
Sure,
and
definitely.
Welcome Amar Shergill. He is chair of the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party. He's here to update us on some exciting developments at the state level in California. Real quick, if you have questions for Amar, you're on the phone, press *3, an operator will pass along your question. Otherwise, please type it in the Q&A. Amar, thanks so much for being with us tonight. What's happening with the state party in California right now?
Everybody, it's a pleasure to be with you. And here's the bottom line. We have 6 days to turn the California Democratic Party into a fossil fuel money free party and a police money free party. A party which does not take that money, does not clean it and cycle it to legislators that go in and block the bills we need to create a just society and to protect the future habitability of our planet. So what am I talking about? Some of you have heard this story already, but here's the bottom line, is that, in 2020, the party through 2 different committees said, don't take cop money, don't take fossil fuel money. And 6 days after the recommendation on fossil fuel money, the party took $60,000 worth of fossil fuel money en route to $330,000. And they just refused to bring those committee recommendations to a vote so they would be binding and so we wouldn't take that money anymore. So we have tried within the party apparatus to get that vote, and the chair actually at the last executive board meeting told the Black Caucus chair, you're out of order if you try to discuss police money in the party. And told the Environmental Caucus chair, you are out of order if you try to discuss fossil fuel money in the party. So myself as Progressive Caucus chair and 7 other chairs, we joined together and we did something that's never been done. We went around leadership, we went around the chair and called our own executive board meeting. And that's what's happening this Sunday at 10 a.m., all online. And I'll put the links in the chat. You can attend virtually. But here's what I need everybody's help on. For the next 6 days, the executive board, which is just 400 party activists and appointees around the state, they are going to decide how they're going to vote on Sunday. And we need them to hear from you. Every one of you, wherever you live in this state, there are 4 or 5 or 10 e-board members in your community. And I'm going to hit return so you can see the link in the chat. If you click there, put your name down as a volunteer, we will get you just a handful of names of people in your area that you can call. Not as Our Revolution, not as the Progressive Caucus, not as the California Democratic Party, but just a person in their area that cares about the fact that California is on fire, that people are dying because of the decisions that our party makes. And we want them to vote the right way, to vote their values and not knuckle under to the pressure from those that want to delay to 2022, that want to somehow find a compromise where we keep on taking this dirty money and we keep on putting at risk, the people that are just, functioning barely under multiple public health crises. Can we just do something to try to, put a light that they can see that we're going to try to improve what the California Democratic Party does? And it's not just about the party. This is the largest democratic institution in the nation. How California goes and how the California Democratic Party goes has an influence across the country. If we get this done in the next 6 days, we can provide inspiration to so many other parties and then lean on legislators that take this dirty money. So again, that link is in the chat. If you all would just take time this week to make a handful of calls, I think we can win. We are already very close to our win number. We just need a few more volunteers. So thank you, Our Revolution. You've been helping us organize on this. You've always been in the fight. If anybody's thinking about it, please contribute to Our Revolution, because we can't get it done with this without this kind of national attention on California organizing. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Amr. And again, if you want to contribute, that's ourrev.us/2021 member, as Amr suggested. Did we lose you, Amr? Are you still with us? Because we got a question or two for you. And actually, I want to ask you what you're talking about. Actually, make a little quick statement and then turn into a question. What you're talking about is so critically important, and how that money just it so disheartens poor, struggling, and working people. So they throw up their hands. They feel they have no influence over the representatives from either party. That's why we see a Trump. And a quick story, I used to live in California. I was close friends with Senate President Bill Monning. I don't know if he's still the president right now, the state Senate president. And Bill was a great guy, but he just simply would not criticize the Democratic Party. He would not criticize the leaders. He would talk a progressive game. And it just is so disheartening when people feel that loyalty to that party and maybe the money apparatus supersedes speaking truth to power.
No, well, that's so true. I mean, when we talk about fundraising for the California Democratic Party, people say, "Hey, why should we give money to this party? We know they take money from all sorts of corporations. We know that they are taking money from those that aren't acting in our interests." And over the last legislative session, what we saw in California was just devastating. We saw bill after bill, good climate reform bills, good police accountability bills that we could not get passed. We couldn't even get out of committee. California right now is behind Texas when it comes to set-offs, when it comes to making sure that you don't put this fossil fuel infrastructure right beside schools. And the reason we are behind Texas is that our legislators make these deals with fossil fuel companies, tell them to give the money to the party cleans the money and then spends it and makes it look like good Democratic Party money. And then these legislators block all these bills. And we're not going to stop that unless we take a stand. And that stand we're doing right now. It's never been done in California. I cannot impress upon you how much tension and acrimony this has caused. And we had to really fight just to get the meeting on calendar. But now that's on calendar, we've got to win this vote. It may be our only chance to clean this party up. And I just thank Our Revolution and anybody else that can volunteer.
Amr, we've got a fellow Californian on the phone, Congressman Khanna, but I do want to ask you one question from Mary Jo. What is the status of CalCare?
It's funny because we were just talking about this. As soon as this weekend is over, we are going to turn to CalCare, AB 1400. So some of you probably know that Assemblymember Ash Collar has been working hard with CNA and to get the final version of the bill done. Right now, he's on a tour around the country looking at, how other jurisdictions have done this. So as soon as we're done with this, we will be turning full force into that campaign because it's going to be a sprint. The entire bill has to be introduced and passed in January. So we're going to be doing that statewide. There'll be town halls across the country, and especially we'll be putting pressure on legislators because, last time around, we did everything Mr. Nice Guy. We brought in legislation and Ash Collar tried to build consensus. What we saw was a lot of bad faith responses like, "Oh, I don't like how you did this. Well, do you have your own way of doing it?" "No." "Well, I don't like your funding mechanism." "Well, what funding mechanism would you like to support?" "Well, I don't know." So it's just a lot of bad faith because they're on the take. They're just accepting a ton of money from folks that are profiting off of our misery. So this time around, we're going to submit our final language and say, this is it. And then we're going to go to work doing what folks do. The same reason that Bernie Sanders won California, that power and energy is going to be directed at legislators in their districts to get them to vote the right way. So it's coming, folks. Just wait.
That's awesome. That's such great news. Thank you so much, Amr Shergill from the Progressive Caucus of the Democratic Party of California. Now let me turn this meeting right over to Marissa Warmiel for our next guest.
Thanks, Hal. We're so pleased to welcome Congressman Ro Khanna, who's joining us live from Capitol Hill, where the Congressional Progressive Caucus is deep into negotiations for the budget bill. If anyone on the phones has questions for the congressman, please press *3 and an operator will take down your questions. Everyone else, please type your questions into the Q&A. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's get right to it. With the self-imposed Halloween deadline approaching for the budget, what's the state of play in this fight?
Well, first of all, let me thank you. Let me thank Our Revolution, Joseph, Paco, Larry, and of course, Amr for doing an extraordinary job in mobilizing. We need to continue to push to end fossil fuel subsidies. I've been leading that fight as chair of the Oversight Environment Committee. We had 54 members, right? Obviously, that is something that is going to be heavily litigated. I'm meeting with a group of progressives with President Biden tomorrow. I'm going to make it clear that ending the fossil fuel subsidies is one of our highest priorities. We have a hearing that I'm chairing for the first time on October 28th. Big Oil is coming before my committee. Big Oil in terms of Exxon CEO, Chevron CEO, Shell, BP. We're going to ask them, why is it that you had climate scientists tell you in the 1980s that fossil fuels were going to cause climate change, cause the climate crisis, and yet you lied you lied to the American people, and ad after ad in the 1990s and the early 2000s denying the climate crisis. And they're going to finally have to answer the truth for what they've done and what they continue to do. So we're going to push for the clean electricity standard. And if that's unacceptable, then figuring out what alternative will get us to the goal of 50% reduction of emissions by 2030, which is what we've committed and have to do with Glasgow and the Paris Accords. So climate is at the forefront of our fight right now.
Yes, it is. Can you tell us a little bit more about the hearings and what we can expect to hear?
Absolutely. This is a historic hearing. It's never happened before that these big oil CEOs have come in front of Congress. I was willing to use any power necessarily to bring them in. We're going to have the entire oversight committee have these hearings. They're like the big tobacco hearings. And the idea is very, very simple. Why did they tell us one thing and do another thing? Why did they tell us that the climate crisis wasn't there while their own scientists were telling them that the climate crisis was being caused by fossil fuels? Why did they continue to engage in greenwashing, saying that they care about sustainability, saying they care about climate change, and yet their actions belie that, as was most evidenced by the McCoy video, where they were engaged in basically killing any efforts for climate legislation. We cannot tackle the climate crisis until we tackle the climate disinformation crisis. As long as you have big oil spending millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars engaged in climate disinformation and engaged in killing climate legislation, we don't have a fighting chance. And we're seeing that with their systematic dismantling in Build Back Better. So we need to really, this is our moment. And I'm counting on everyone on this call to help amplify it, to tune in, to help suggest your questions. This is our moment to hold the big oil accountable and force them to tell the truth, finally, to the American people.
Yes, that's right. That sounds like it's going to be an amazing hearing to get all those people in one room, and that's going to be awesome. And so we were wondering, we have some questions in the chat about how we can protect the working people in the fossil fuel sector when we're, going through all these pieces of legislation about fossil fuels.
I appreciate it very much that concern, because as we look at fossil fuel heavy states, we can't be indifferent to the fact that a lot of families, miners, others have had generations of pride, of dignity in work, and they need to have new opportunity, new livelihood. They don't want just handouts. They want pride, they want dignity, they want jobs. That's why I have suggested that we actually earmark a number of these jobs that are clean tech jobs, that are advanced tech jobs for these states that are heavily fossil fuel dependent, that we give more of these opportunities in those states, that we work to have more of resource investment and we bring those jobs first so that those states know that they will be winners, that the opportunity will be there, and that we make sure that everyone who wants to work has dignified, good opportunities. So that's absolutely essential to bringing people on.
And we also have a couple more questions about how are we going to get this legislation through the Senate, and especially, with some of the roadblocks that we've had with the Manchin and Sinema so far.
Well, we're counting on all of you. I mean, if you have ideas, let me know, but we have to continue to mobilize. We have to continue to say that this is what working class and middle class Americans want, that if we don't deliver this, then we're letting people down, that letting people down is exactly what's going to lead to a rise of the ugly populism. What we need is the aspirational populism. We have to show that we finally hear the working class, the middle class in this country. They're not asking for much. They're saying, educate our kids. They're saying, give us health care. They're saying, give us a fighting chance with a decent wage. Make sure we have some housing. Make sure our planet doesn't burn. Make sure we can see with eyeglasses. Make sure our teeth don't decay with being able to see a dentist. Make sure we can hear with a hearing aid. These are not massive demands. They're saying, people are saying we want basic dignity. That's what this bill is about. And we need to continue to make that case. And you're doing an amazing job making that case. And we're trying to make that case when we see the president, when we see any leadership. And the Progressive Caucus so far has held firm. Now, we're going to have to compromise. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the number is going to be 3.5 trillion, because I'm always a straight shooter with everyone. But the question is, where do we compromise? The current proposal is totally unacceptable. I mean, $60,000 with a working work requirement is not going to fly. The progressives are not going to be for a work requirement. We're not going to be for that kind of sharp means testing where so many working families and middle-class families are left out. So we're open to compromise, but it has to be a reasonable compromise, and that's what we're working on. 2 points that I think we need to make. One, which I see someone is making in the chat, this is a 10-year bill, not a 1-year bill. Second, the way I talk about it is it's less than 2% of our gross domestic product every year, less than 2% of our GDP. That puts it in perspective. When people hear these numbers, 3 trillion, 10 trillion, 5 trillion, 1.5 trillion, those are big numbers. It intimidates folks. They don't know how to put it in context. But if you say, look, we're the richest country in the world, and what we're talking about is increasing our federal spending at less than 2% of our GDP. And by doing that, less than 2% of an investment is going to give every American kid a shot at preschool, is going to make sure every kid is looked after in childcare, is going to make sure that seniors finally get dental, vision, and hearing, is going to make sure that community colleges are accessible. All of this we can do for less than 2% of our GDP at a time where we're creating trillions of dollars of wealth. People get it. People get that. And so I just think we need to be smart in how we talk about it and not get people and put it in context for folks.
Awesome. And is there anything that our folks that are listening on this call right now, what can they do to help amplify this message?
Well, they've done so much. They can continue to talk about what's in the bill. They can continue to talk about how small of an investment this actually is compared to our GDP. They can continue to say we can pay for this by taxing the big corporations that aren't paying tax, by taxing the ultra wealthy, who in many cases are avoiding tax or certainly aren't paying as much tax as working class folks, that the revenue is there if we just tax the extraordinary wealth in this country and the corporations in this country, and that we can do that to provide everyone with education and healthcare and basic dignity. No one is talking about a handout. This is not saying, oh, you get taken care of for the rest of your life. This is not some lifelong entitlement. This is saying that every person needs every person needs to have health and education to succeed in American society. That's the prerequisite. And so what we're asking for is so basic. And so I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited to go tomorrow to advocate for all of us to the White House with other progressives, and we're going to continue to push.
Thank you so much, Congressman, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it and look forward to, seeing more about the hearing and learning more as everything comes together.
Thank you so much for Marissa for your work, and again, thank you to Paco and then Larry, Joseph, and my good friend Amar Shergill, who was the progressive chair of the caucus, doing amazing work.
All right, thank you so much, both Representative Khanna and, of course, Marissa. That was a great interview. We learned so much, and we always appreciate it when a great friend and ally of our revolution like Congressman Khanna comes on our weekly broadcast. As you can see, we are working to transform the Democratic Party both inside with Congressmember Khanna and from the outside, as he's calling on us to do. Hey, get in touch with your representatives, urge them to support the kinds of progressive changes we need. And as we do that, though, we do need to grow our membership to maximize our impact and make real and lasting changes. Our revolution does rely 100% on grassroots funding to carry out this critically important work. Please sign up to be a recurring donor to keep this momentum going. We cannot do it without you. The link is in the chat. Again, ourrev.us/2021 member. And now let me turn it right back to Marissa for our next guest.
Thanks, Hal. And I'm excited to welcome our field director, Mike Olis, who's been on the ground in Arizona as we continue to amp up our actions against Senator Kyrsten Sinema as she stands in the way of the budget package and the filibuster reform and the PRO Act. Welcome, Mike. How's it been in Arizona?
Hey, Marissa and Hal, great call tonight. It is awesome to be with everybody again every Monday night. I want to say this, Arizona last week and over the last 15 days, it's been very intense. I mean, you can feel the struggle for our democracy, in real time in Arizona right now. It's probably the same way you can feel it in West Virginia. Activists, everyday people, labor leaders, environmental leaders, everybody's coming together. Establishment Democrats, progressive Democrats. Everybody's on the same page in Arizona right now. It's amazing to see, except for Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Last week, Marissa and our revolution, we just look at this picture. We drove this truck around the state. Went to both of Kyrsten Sinema's offices. She has an office the size of a shack, literally a shack in downtown Tucson, completely abandoned, no human activity in that building for a long time. And so we rallied about 75 people in front of her office last Thursday night. Where is Kyrsten Sinema? It's a recess. We're supposed to be on break. We're supposed to be back in district. It turns out Kyrsten Sinema Monday was in Boston, and then she went to Europe for a fundraiser. While hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Arizonians got together and protested and spoke out. So this photo here, Marissa, is in front is a rally we did at a union hall in Phoenix, the CWA Union Hall, and we heard from teachers and CWA members mostly that night, which is a Wednesday night. And somebody brought this milk carton, right? We all remember those milk cartons, where is, we normally, this is satire, right? But where is so-and-so, this missing person, right? Unfortunately, the missing person, is Kyrsten Sinema. She is missing from the conversation in Arizona right now, even though, the whole of the Democratic Party, the party that got her elected, that she built her career around, is waiting for some pretty important answers. So just an awesome couple days, a couple weeks in Arizona. And this week, just more and more pressure building up. On Thursday, there's going to be a big rally with the AFL-CIO in Arizona to protect our democracy, to move forward on all these issues that Kyrsten Sinema is holding up.
So do you think we can flip Sinema? And if so, what are the next steps in Arizona?
I'm looking at some of the comments here about a primary challenge, and I think where in the world is Kyrsten Sinema Diego, right, from the old video game that a lot of us who are old enough to remember that awesome video game where you chase somebody around the country. I was joking that that Griswold family movie, The European Vacation, that's where Kyrsten was last week. So I think I've never seen such a large group of people united. In Arizona, just think about this, right? Arizona, the progressives and I quote the centrists or moderates or establishment, they all work together to flip Arizona, to defeat Donald Trump. Everybody worked together, kind of overcame their differences to get Kyrsten Sinema elected, to defeat Donald Trump. And you have, I think everybody from the governor, the mayor of Phoenix, to very progressive activists, like working together on this problem. Like, what is she up to? What's going on here? And people are at a loss, but I said the coalition is very strong. People are working together in ways that you don't see in a lot of other places right now. And there is a united disgust with what's going on with Kyrsten Sinema. It's outrageous, and people are fighting with everything they got right now to hold her accountable to her broken promises.
All right,
and I see a comment here from Iris Hart. Iris came out and joined us on a Friday morning, and we protested in front of her office. So so Tucson was closed down and quiet, and nothing going on there. So in the front of her office, Cinema's office in Phoenix, thought it would be more active. And Iris can point this out. It was completely abandoned. Also, no staff, no signage, a sign out front, but nothing going on there. And the one thing I found interesting is that there's been so many protests in front of her office that other tenants in the building where the office is are starting to get pissed off. And the property manager came out to us and was like, hey, we lost a tenant because they were tired of all the protesting. And, I think something that, hopefully that property management company will figure out is that, Kyrsten Sinema is a bad tenant. She's not serving the people of Arizona. She's not serving everyday tenants in Arizona. Maybe they should evict her because, everybody else in that building has to deal with all these protests all the time, right? So the pressure is building up. Her own landlord in that business complex where her office is, which is hard to get to, hard place to protest, but people are protesting all the time. The message is getting out that she's a problem. We're gonna bird dog. We're gonna go door to door. We're gonna live stream. We're gonna primary. Iris was talking about Ruben Gallego potentially primarying her in a couple of years, and so the progressive movement is definitely working together to have an alternative to Kyrsten Sinema. But in this moment, I think we all hope that she will, come back to us, come back to the party that helped create her career and deliver for the people of Arizona. It's the best thing that could happen is she, will come back, negotiate in good faith, and let's get this bill done so that we can get health care for better health care, better Medicare, free community college. I mean, Phoenix is full of community colleges, great community colleges. There's a chance that every community college student in the country can get free community college if we get this bill passed. So much going on here. Saw information about home care workers, healthcare workers. This bill is going to make a huge difference in the lives of everyday Americans. Ro Khanna just said it's 2% of our GDP. Imagine, for that investment, that 2% investment, we can transform the lives of millions of Americans. So that's what's at stake. And our movement is out strong doing things. And as lastly add here that we were in the Boston Globe this week, a great story about our activism and the pressure being put on Kyrsten Sinema. So just gotta keep on organizing, keep on fighting, give it be creative, mobilize as many people as possible. And I think, we have a shot here, but it's gonna, but people aren't giving up.
Well, thanks, Mike, and for all the work that you're doing in Arizona. It's awesome to keep pressure on Senator Sinema. For those of you that can't make it in Arizona to the events on Thursday, you can go ahead and sign our petition to Kyrsten Sinema that we're dropping in the chat now. And if you're on the phones, you can go to rrev.us/cinemaproact. That's rrev.us/cinemaproact.
That's right, Marissa. And let me just say before I get to our next event, Mike Olis is without question the James Brown of the progressive movement. He is the hardest working political organizer I've ever seen. He drove out to Arizona from the Midwest in Indiana in that truck. You can see it right there. And he just was tireless organizing events. And I know for a fact, because I was getting calls, I'm trying to take a break. And he's like, I'm going live, get me on Facebook, get me on video. So Mike is he is living and breathing the progressive movement. And this is what being a movement builder means. It means supporting Mike Olis. It means supporting us as we're moving heaven and earth to make life just a little better for poor, struggling, and working Americans.
And Hal, I just want to throw in a quick, last year, 1 year ago, Hal, what were we all doing? Everybody in this call, right? Last year, a year ago, we were doing everything we could to defeat Donald Trump, right? And a lot of us drove a pickup truck that kind of looked like this pickup truck around the Midwest, bird dogging Mike Pence and Donald Trump. When they showed up in the Midwest, we're like, Donald Trump, you failed. You lied to workers here in the Midwest. Why should we reelect you? You betrayed the people who voted for you. And what's sad is that, after everybody here on this call and in the nation putting all that work in to defeat Trumpism and Donald Trump, here we are 1 year later. Kirsten Sinema, a Democrat, somebody comes out of the progressive anti-war movement, comes out of the progressive movement itself, betraying us. If Sting's even worse than Donald Trump, that we have to go after her a year after we all sacrificed so hard to get rid of Donald Trump, and she's putting everything at risk. So I just want to add that as we think about the work we've all done together.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that too, Mike. I mean, I know we all were hoping to take a break, and there's little humor, inside joke there with James Brown. But, we all were like thinking, let's get a break, right? I mean, we won a year ago, Mike. We won in January of this year, took the Senate back, but it really just meant more organizing, more events, more rallies, more phone banks, because we finally have the capacity, the power in the Democratic Party, but getting them to exercise it is obviously as heavy a lift as it is to get them that power in the first place. So that's why we continue. That's why we're here every week. That's why we're going to be in D.C. tomorrow for the Voting Rights Now, No More Excuses rally. That is going to get going around 12:30 right there at Black Lives Matter Plaza. That's just north of Lafayette Square and above the White House between H and I Streets on 16th Street. I'll be there. Marissa's going to be there. You'll see us there. Please come down. Try to arrive somewhere around 12:30, 12:45. Joseph's going to be there. So it's going to be an exciting event. This is about voting rights. Without the freedom to vote guaranteed, we have no freedom. That link is going to be in the chat. Please join us tomorrow if you're in the area, 12:30, 12:45 at Black Lives Matter Square there in DC Plaza, I should say.
And thanks for all of you joining in with these actions, but we need everyone to get involved in this fight to get this legislation over the finish line. You can use the link in the chat and call your member of Congress and tell them to hold the line and fight for our priorities. If you want to go to that link, it's rrev.us/budget fight and call your member of Congress. You need to tell them that now's the time to hold the line and fight for our priorities. Again, that's rrev.us/budget fight.
Those priorities are our priorities. Those priorities are the priorities of the majority, the large majority of the American public, whether it's Medicare expansion. Heck, we want Medicare for all. Right now, we'll settle grudgingly for Medicare expansion. And of course, no subsidies for fossil fuels, the PRO Act, protections for labor, and more besides. Later this week, another great meeting. Hope you enjoy this one. The one on the 21st should be just as good. Look at those great guests. Jamani Williams, he's been on our calls before. He's outstanding. He's the New York City public advocate. India Walton, I called her the mayor of Buffalo, New York, got ahead of myself. The next mayor of Buffalo, New York, the progressive candidate, India Walton, she's tremendous as well on our calls. And Felicia Singh, another great guest on our calls, running for the New York City Council. You don't want to miss that. That's the New York Get Out the Vote meeting this Thursday.
And every week we have our 2021 membership phone banks on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and on Sundays 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. We are looking for more folks to join us on our ever-growing team of phone bankers. So if you're interested, you can sign up on the link in the chat, or if you're on the phones, you can go to Mobilize, and you'll see our weekly membership phone bank.
All right, and that's going to take us to the end of the call. We're getting done just a little bit early this evening. I want to just say thank, first of all, Marissa and everyone who helped us put this together. Carlos on slides, Paco, and Amanda with a tremendous show flow. Of course, our great speakers with Congressman Khanna and Amar Shergill, both from California, Mike Olis from Indiana. And we do end these calls with our chant. We'll do the call and response. We'll do it 3 times. I'll say when we organize, you say we win. When we organize,
we win.
We win.
When we organize,
We
We
win.
win.
when we organize.
We win.
We win.
Win.
Woo!
Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.